who'll do the work. But first, there's a pep talk from Mathieu on how to change people's ways.
Alors donc tout ça, comme c'est une zone à forte vocation pastorale, le problème majeur de la...
You know that there is a strong pastoral tradition here.
L'alimentation des bétails. Donc ça c'est un problème fondamental qui en tout cas qui...
The major problem for the population here is feeding themselves, which weighs so heavily on the farmer. So the disappearance of bushes and trees poses a huge problem.
Pose un problème. Et le second problème également, c'est l'ensablement des cours d'eau.
There are too many mouths to feed. The project is not so much about investing much money, but about thinking strategically. You have to convince people. If they see change is possible, then you're halfway there.
Mathieu is leaving Burkina Faso, travelling north to Mali to see what lessons can be learned here. Mali too suffered during the droughts of the 70s and 80s. A third of the population, some 2 million people, were severely affected. Their herds were decimated. Conditions today are still severe. Large sand dunes almost suffocate the old trees. Wherever regreening has been practiced since the 1980s, thousands of hectares have been reclaimed. In the village of Ende, the farmers are now much more careful tending their trees, integrating them with their crops. The trees provide fruit, timber and firewood. Their leaves help restore soil fertility. Mathieu meets Salif Gwindo, president of the Barhogan Association. It's an organisation of over 30 communes in the area of Bankas.
What advice about tree management can I take back to the farmers of Burkina?
There are the benefits with the animals. Even the villagers realise this now. In the past, people used to collect dung and even millet stalks for fuel, but now that they have wood from trees, they don't need to do that. Natural seed regeneration is helped by the animals passing seeds in their manure, and this increases production because of all the nutrients put back.
Under the millet stalks left in the fields, microorganisms and termites help improve soil quality.
In Burkina, for example, the women use this as firewood, but if you leave it, it's fertilizer.
But there's little point in a farmer fertilizing trees and the crops beneath them if he has no control over those trees.
C'est parce que le paysan protégeait déjà ces espèces que l'État les a protégées.
I think we have a right to protect the land. And then there's the policies of the different ministries who offer advice. But they need to coordinate more with the farmers as well.
Nous sommes un peu plus modérés parce qu'il y a la stratégie politique. Voilà.
There's a political strategy, a plan of action for the region handed down by the government. But at the same time, they also have to recognize that the village is our space. We must be allowed to manage our own forests.
This is perhaps the most important change in the regreening of Mali, the focus on who owns the trees. There was a time when woodcutters could roam freely, felling any trees they liked. But in the 1990s, the law changed. Farmers now owned the trees growing on their land. Woodcutters could no longer fell them. An organisation called Sahel Echo established a local radio station in Bankas which publicised the new law. Mary Allen, a British regreening expert, came to Mali to help in the middle of the 1980s drought. She's been here ever since.
It was when the Barhogan Association was given training on what the law said that they realised that they didn't have any forest land. They had trees, but they were in their fields.
So, for the first time, the farmers gained control of the trees on their land.
They introduced new rules for themselves. So they introduced rules about how you can't go into somebody else's field and cut his tree without asking his permission. They said that the women couldn't cut trees, that they could collect what the men trimmed off the trees at the beginning of the rainy season. And then they started to train and inform the farmers in the new techniques of how you could prune trees and how you could keep them on your fields without reducing your millet harvest.
Caring for the trees is better for us. My wife is happy and we have plenty to cook with.
I get more firewood this way, and it's not a problem. And I don't have to walk far to get it. The dried leaves act as fertilizer for the soil, and we no longer have to burn dried millet stalks.
Later in the village, the farmer's wife explains that not everybody follows this practice.
Some women come and try to steal from our woodpile because we're so successful.
A woman will tell her husband she's been hard done by because she has to collect twigs or millet stalks.
Even among the women she'll feel humiliated because she's got a lazy husband.
5 miles away in Van Cass, Mathieu is guest on the local radio station, Radio Seno.
We're here tonight to listen to each other and share ideas about how we can help our farmers and their families.
It's not the first time I've been here, and I want to congratulate the association, which has made great progress in the villages creating trees on farms. Why do the other villages work differently from the farmers of the association? They need to do the same and make family forests. You should invite all the other villages around Bancass who haven't joined us, so they too can create the family forests. Why are all the villages around here not joining you? I think we have to be brave and continue our collaboration and share our experiences.
For the rest of the world, there's an added benefit to the regreening of the Sahel. Not only do people live better lives, but their trees and topsoil capture carbon. Mathieu returns to Ouagadougou, where there's a young Burkinabe scientist trying to help these farmers by searching for the best drought-resistant trees. Ori Buda works for a tree research organization, the Center for International Forestry Research, CIFOR.
In this nursery, I am trying to stress plants to see how level they can resist about drought stress and how they adapt in drought stress to drought stress. And after 2 years, I may say that trees from southern part of Africa resist less to drought stress compared to trees from Sahelian part of Africa. Trees are, to me, the natural best way to capture carbon.
Millions of hectares need regreening. Under the Kyoto Climate Treaty, carbon capture is an integral part of the Clean Development Mechanism, or CDM, whereby governments give cash to projects in the developing world to plant trees. Chris Rage is an environmental scientist working as a specialist on the problems of desertification in the Sahel. He's in London talking to a charity funding the Sahel Regreening Initiative. Large areas have already been regreened in the Sahel. In Niger, for example, 5 million hectares. And it costs very little. $2 to $3 million per country would produce remarkable results. But will African farmers benefit from this carbon capture scheme?
Compared to tropical rainforests, the carbon capture in these dry lands is a little bit of a drop in the ocean. And farmers never think about protecting and managing trees for the reasons of capturing carbon. That's a notion that is completely unknown to them.
The CDM only provides finance for the planting of new forests, not for the maintenance and pruning of existing ones.
In this carbon market, Africa has only 2% of this market. compared to 8